ReefDudes is sponsored by Brightwell Aquatics and Bulk Reef Supply.
Today, we're automating refilling our auto tester water. What's going on, guys? Devin from ReefDudes. So beside my tank, I have one of those space saver containers, and this is used to feed RDI water to the auto testers. Now, one of the problems with having a remote ATO is you don't really have a nice, easy place for your testers to pull RDI water from. So I have this bin, and I do have a solenoid in it to control when it fills, but the problem is there's nothing to trigger it when it's too low or too high. So there is one optical sensor in there to turn it off if it's too high, but the problem is I usually turn it on and I have to sit there and watch it, or I risk it overflowing and making a mess. So with the one that came with the new Apex, it literally just fit through the hole of the lid, which is freaking amazing because it means I can use one of these to control topping it off. So I did buy the longer one, and we're gonna get this installed and automate refilling the auto tester water. All right, check it out. This just fits inside, which is amazing because I've been trying to find a solution for this for ages. Now, the first step ideally would be to calibrate this. I don't know if I'm gonna bother because I don't really care if it's a little bit off. All I care about is what it reads when it's full. And you know, we can pick something like 3 inches or whatever to let it refill itself. So let's plug this in first. We'll start by plugging this into our FMM. And I think I will actually add in an optical sensor a little bit higher just as a backup. So if there was ever an issue with, say, the level sensor, there will also be an optical. I always like to have multiple kind of methods of redundancy. Now I'm going to start by zip tying the hose that sucks from the bottom to this just to make sure it doesn't drift around. I know it's always in the bottom in the proper spot. Now in our FMM, we're just going to go in and tell it which sensor we're using. So this is the liquid level sensor 15-inch. Hit update, slide this in, and we'll see what the reading is showing. So now if we look here, it is, you know, a couple inches from the top. It's reading 8.9 inches. So that's basically what I'm going to use as my top full level. And I did slide the optical sensor about 1 inch above it, just kind of as backup. And what I'm going to do is allow this one to control when the solenoid pump turns on. But I'm going to put this one as the last line of code. So if this optical sensor is ever closed, then it turns off the pump, and the solenoid is kind of our safety backup. Now for filling purposes, I'm also going to put this solenoid and kind of zap strap it in place just to make sure it doesn't fall. And I also have one of these water level sensors that we're also going to put on the floor as another level of kind of leak safety, just to make sure that the solenoid doesn't ever fall out. I'm also going to Velcro that to the sensor. I can slide it all back into place.
Now we get to the fun part of programming. So I tend to like to go into the tree view just because I find it easier to find everything. And so I got our FMM on the wall. I did go through and already named these, but generally from here I just click on each one and make a name for it. So on this one, I just went for tester RO, so TRO. Then we got our levels, so that's our tape level sensor. We got our high, which are opticals, just as like a secondary backup. And I also have the leak sensor on the floor. Now if we go into the FMM modules, make sure everything's set up correctly. So we got our 15-inch liquid level sensor, we got our optical and water on the floor. So that all looks good. And over here you can see we got our TRO high, our leak, and our level sensor. So I did angle it a bit, so it is reading a smidge higher, so now it's reading 9.7. So I think we'll just use 9 as kind of our high within the container, and we know that our optical sensor is probably more around 10. So now on this, I have a solenoid that opens and closes to refill it. So that one is our MT ATO fill. So now on this one, we're gonna say if TRO level is less than, say, 4, then on. If TRO level is greater than 9, then off. I'm also going to say if TRO high equals closed, then off. Okay, so we're going to put the same code into the ATO pump because it's only going to work if they're both open. All right, so our ATO pump. All right, so same code in here. So if our tester RO is less than 4, turn on. If it's above 9, turn off. If the high sensor is tripped, turn off. And we're also gonna add a leak one in here. So if TRO leak, TRO leak. Now I'm also gonna add the TRO leak line to the other code. And this is just for the solenoid one to make sure the solenoid closes if it ever detects a leak. All right, now this is programmed. So now if the level sensor is below 4 inches, then it's going to open the solenoid and as well as turn on my ATO pump, and it's going to fill. And once it hits 9 inches or above, it's going to turn off. And we also have it if the optical high sensor is ever tripped, which it shouldn't because it's above 9 inches, it'll turn it off. And we also have a leak sensor on the floor, so if that's ever tripped, again, it will turn it off. So we do have multiple layers in here that should keep things pretty safe.
And we are done. So it was actually a pretty quick and easy process. Now I never have to worry about manually refilling that again. I don't have to worry about forgetting about leaving it on and it overflowing and spilling water on the floor. So we have multiple levels of redundancy. You can turn off by the tape level. We also have it triggered by a backup optical sensor, which I don't think we'll need, but it's there for good measure, as well as the leak sensor. So super overkill. We have multiple sensors that can turn off 2 different devices, which would both feed it, which is the solenoid as well as the ATO pump. So I think we're pretty darn safe, and yeah, gotta love automation. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you learned something, and if you did, hit that like button. If you got any questions on how I did the setup, let me know in the comments below, and catch you guys on the next update.